Revealed, how my wife's divorced friend encouraged an experiment that transformed our life together. Jake stood in the kitchen, staring at the sun-drenched yard outside, its gleaming grass and perfectly trimmed hedges symbolizing everything he felt trapped in. The picturesque suburb of Ohio was a postcard of the American dream, yet at that moment, all he felt was discontent. His wife Sarah, usually a beacon of unwavering support, seemed distant, her laughter fading amidst whispered conversations of wealth and status echoing through their neighborhood. The Thompsons, with their lavish parties and extravagant cars, seemed to have everything, while Jake was left struggling to pay bills on a teacher's salary. With each glance at them, he felt the weight of inadequacy pressing down harder on his chest. "Jake, have you seen Sarah?" Their neighbor Linda chirped, her smile gleaming as brightly as her manicured lawn. "I heard she has been spending time with Lisa since she got back." The way Linda let the name linger hung in the air like a challenge. Jake forced a smile, feeling a tight knot of jealousy and anger coil within him. After a few days of Sarah's rekindled friendship, he noticed something had shifted. The spark in her eyes was gradually being replaced by discontent, and one evening, after a plain dinner, she opened up. "What if we swapped lives for a week?" The suggestion landed like a meteor, an experiment with the Thompsons, a life of luxuries he long coveted but also resented. "It could be fun. Maybe we'll see what we're missing," she said, her excitement bubbling over. Before he could process it, he found himself agreeing, hoping this would bridge the chasm between them. The idea bounced around his head. Was this a solution or merely a distraction from their problems? The evening sky grew darker, and he couldn't shake the sense of impending change that loomed ahead. Once the swap began, Jake donned the facade of the affluent. He felt like an actor playing a role, navigating through exclusive parties filled with glittering chandeliers and laughter, all while feeling like a fish desperately gasping for air. He strutted along, smiling through various cliques, but behind those smiles were secrets, simmering resentment, and just below the surface, a creeping sense of loneliness. Meanwhile, Sarah struggled in the opulence of the Thompsons. Gold-plated faucets and endless gourmet meals felt hollow compared to their simple laughter during dinner. Each extravagant party left her feeling increasingly out of tune with herself, as if all the wealth was stripping away her true identity. Amidst the fun, Jake had revelations about the pitfalls these families navigated. Conversations veered toward hollow status, and behind impeccable smiles, he sensed their strained relationships. Meanwhile, the unsaid weight of their financial stress danced in the air to a truth he had never considered. They weren't just a wealthy family, they were prisoners to their own expectations. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. While all this was unfolding, the rifts in their relationship grew painfully evident. Strained conversations laid bare their insecurities. Jake's humble beginnings felt like chains weighed against Sarah's new lifestyle aspirations. They began questioning what truly mattered. However, as they neared the end of the week, they faced a shocking truth about a cherished community tradition that could either tear them apart or bring them back together. At that moment, Jake felt trapped, standing between who they were and who they were trying to be. The choice loomed like a storm cloud above them. Would they sacrifice authenticity for acceptance, and could their love survive this experiment? Jake took a deep breath, knowing the decision he had to make could change everything, wondering what kind of life they would step into next. As the week began to close, Jake felt a tightness in his chest. Each passing day had become an emotional roller coaster, oscillating between exhilarating highs of pretending to live the dream and crushing lows of self-doubt. He was standing at a crossroads, and the decision ahead felt overwhelming. Just when he thought he had a grip on things, the Thompsons invited him to their annual charity gala. It was an extravaganza that shimmered with prestige and allure. "This is your opportunity to shine, Jake," Lisa had said with a wink, her polished confidence masking a world of expectations. His role felt clear: blend in, network, and play up the wealth until his own insecurities faded into the background. He was nervous, but Sarah's face lingered in his mind, urging him to live up to the person she had fallen in love with. The gala night arrived, and Jake stood in front of a full-length mirror, adjusting his tie for the 5th time. Wearing a suit that felt foreign, he tried to reassure himself. Yet, the reflection staring back was one he barely recognized. Would Sarah see this bold new version of him as liberating or as a betrayal of their true selves? His heart raced as he walked into the lavish ballroom, overwhelmed by the golden chandeliers and murmurs of affluent laughter. People flowed around him, wine glasses clinking in camaraderie, but he felt like more of an outsider than ever. Surrounded by draped silk and polished marble, he was about to step into a world of affluence and fame, yet loneliness crept in with each introduction. They spoke of fancy vacations, the latest gadgets, and investment portfolios while he was stuck on thoughts of Sarah. Was her longing for a different life, a glamorous existence, more important than their shared love? Across town, Sarah was feeling the weight of her own experiment. While the Thompsons offered the lap of luxury, her heart ached with a deep sense of longing. Each lavish meal could not compensate for the warmth of Jake's home-cooked dinners, the laughter they shared over puzzles late at night, or the quiet connection that had always fed her spirit. Gradually, she realized that no amount of wealth could replace the love and authenticity they had built together. The Thompsons' world was a fragile facade, and she yearned for the simplicity and honesty that Jake represented. As Jake nodded politely to another conversation about surfboards and exclusive resorts, his heart suddenly raced. He caught sight of Sarah across the room, her face brightening as she entered the gala, her dress shimmering under the lights. For a moment, he forgot the glamorous world surrounding him and focused solely on her. "Jake!" she called, and her voice cut through the noise like a lifeline. He rushed toward her, feeling exhilarated, alive again. "I came to find you," she said, excitement dancing in her eyes. But the smile faltered slightly as she scanned the room. "Is everything okay?" Before he could answer, a commotion erupted near the entrance. Suddenly, whispers swirled around them. Someone had leaked shocking news. Jake didn't catch the details, only the frantic expressions around him and the fragile balance of this nightlife threatened to crack. Sarah took hold of his hand, and they exchanged glances that spoke volumes. "Let us get out of here," he said urgently, and she nodded. Together, they slipped away from the thrumming crowd, uncertainty hanging in the air like a thick fog. Outside in the crisp night, away from the chaos, their breathing steadied, but just when they thought they could regroup and confront things together, a pair of familiar faces turned the corner. Mrs. Thompson and Linda, smiles still pinned firmly on their faces, shadows of suspicion and gossip trailing behind them. "What will happen when their truths are revealed?" Sarah whispered, as they were trapped once more in a world not entirely their own. Jake felt the weight of the moment crush down on him. Outside the glamorous glow, an unexpected truth loomed. Could this experiment unravel their relationship completely? Or would it bind them stronger than before? They stood there, frozen for a moment, uncertainty hanging thickly around them. Mrs. Thompson's laughter rang out, a sound both warm and chilling. It was a reminder that beneath the smiles and opulence lay the ruthless nature of their world. "Jake!" "Sarah!" Mrs. Thompson called out warmly, closing the distance between them. "This is a surprise. We thought you'd be enjoying the festivities a bit longer." Her eyes sparkled, masking a knowing gleam that sent a shiver down Jake's spine. "Just needed some fresh air," Jake replied, trying to keep his voice steady. Beside him, Sarah squeezed his hand tighter, a wordless promise to face whatever was coming together. Linda chimed in, her smile bright but her gaze sharp. "You two make quite the pair." "Jake, you've made quite an impression tonight." "Yeah, we were just discussing the gala," Jake stammered, grasping for a lifeline amidst the rising tension. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were being scrutinized. "Oh, it's all just a show, you know that," Mrs. Thompson waved her hand dismissively. Sometimes I think we're all just playing characters in a movie, so scripted in our roles. Isn't that true? Linda added, leaning in slightly, the pressure of her gaze feeling almost predatory. Sometimes, it's hard to know what's real and what's just a facade. Jake's heart hammered in his chest. The implication hung there, sharp as glass, ready to cut. He glanced at Sarah, her eyes wide, a mixture of concern and fierce loyalty reflecting back at him. Yes, he managed, his voice firming up, but isn't it exciting to think that real connections can happen behind all that? He saw Sarah's lips twitch into a smile, encouragement sparking between them. Their eyes met, and he gathered his courage. Maybe that's what we should be focusing on: authenticity. Mrs. Thompson's smile faltered for a split second, and Jake saw the shift. Her voice turned syrupy sweet. Authenticity is vital if you can handle the truth, that is. The weight of her words hung heavily in the air, thick with unspoken secrets. Jake felt a surge of adrenaline. What was about to unfold? Did she know something? He needed answers, not just for himself, but for Sarah. We should head back inside, Sarah said, her breath catching slightly, the night is young. Indeed, Mrs. Thompson agreed, her smile returning with a sharp edge. And this charity is all for a good cause, after all. We wouldn't want to miss it. With that, they turned, moving as a unit back toward the pulsing energy of the gala. But as the doors opened, revealing the vibrant chaos within, Jake's mind raced. Lies and truths were swirling around, and he couldn't shake the sense that they were teetering on the brink. What if this night unveiled the very fractures in their lives they had been pretending didn't exist? He kept casting nervous glances at Sarah, who, despite the uncertainty, stood resolute beside him, a beacon in the storm. They stepped back into the sea of laughter and clinking glasses, but the atmosphere felt charged, waiting for a spark. What are you thinking? Sarah asked, her voice just above the crowd noise, a concern lining her features. Something is off, Jake started, but a commotion beckoned his attention, a voice rising above the rest, declaring that there was a surprise announcement about to be made. The crowd hushed, the energy shifting palpably, and Jake felt the excitement crackle in the air. What have they got planned now? Sarah murmured, her forehead scrunching in concern. As they turned toward the stage, the spotlight glinted off the silver podium. Jake's heart sank, and a gnawing dread crept into the corners of his mind. Something told him this wasn't just another speech. What was about to be revealed? Would their lives be turned upside down, or would they find the truth they desperately needed? The moment felt electric, and as the speakers cleared their throats, Jake took a deep breath. This was the moment of truth. Would it solidify their bond or shatter it? With uncertainty swirling, Sarah turned to him and asked, "Are you ready for whatever comes next?" Jake's heart raced as he faced the unknown, clinging to hope while fear entwined with anticipation. What unleashed would change everything. The hall echoed with a sudden hush as everyone waited, drawn to the speaker poised at the podium. Jake felt his stomach twist into knots. He could see Sarah's anxious fingers fidgeting with her bracelet, a telltale sign of her unease, and all he could do was grip her hand, hoping to bring some comfort. The spotlight seemed to magnify the tension, illuminating beads of sweat on the brow of the host, who cleared his throat. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice steady but laced with a quiver, "thank you for your continued generosity tonight. We have a special announcement that could change the landscape of our community." Jake shared a glance with Sarah, their hearts sinking in unison. The world around them faded, the laughter, the clinking of glasses, everything but the voice on the stage became background noise. "Tonight, we are proud to announce the launch of the Thompson Foundation's new initiative," the host continued, "dedicated to helping families in crisis. As such, we'll be sharing personal stories that exemplify our cause." A wave of unease washed over Jake. Personal stories? He shot a glance at Mrs. Thompson, seated prominently in the front row, an amused smirk pulling at the corners of her mouth. She'd been known to manipulate the narrative to her advantage. To kick things off, the host continued, "I'd like to welcome out Sarah Thompson." Jake's stomach dropped. The very mention of Sarah's name ignited a firestorm of panic in his chest. He could see Sarah's face go pale, her eyes darting from the stage to the audience filled with familiar faces. "Sarah?" Jake whispered, incredulous. "Yes," she said, her voice quaking slightly. "It's okay, Jake. I think I need to," but before she could finish her thought, Mrs. Thompson beamed with pride as her daughter ascended the stage, the spotlight cascading down on her. The room filled with applause, yet all Jake could focus on was the tightness in Sarah's smile, a thin veneer over an ocean of fear. "Thank you," Sarah began, her voice carrying an earnest tremor. "Tonight, I want to share something very personal, something that's changed my life." Jake's heart raced as he recognized the impending weight of her words. Was this the moment they had been avoiding? "I've learned that we often create stories about ourselves, stories that may not reflect who we truly are," she continued, her gaze sweeping across the faces in front of her. "And sometimes, it takes being vulnerable to find the real connections we crave." As she spoke, Jake felt the world around him blur. He could sense the ripple of murmurs from the crowd, intrigue mingling with judgment. And then his mind broke away from the chaos, focusing solely on the look in Sarah's eyes, determined yet terrified. "We all have secrets." Her voice grew stronger. "I've kept mine hidden, but I realize now that sharing them allows for healing and unity." She paused, a beat hanging heavy in the air, before adding, "It's why I believe in this foundation so deeply. It's more than charity. It's about sharing every side of ourselves, even the parts we think will break others." As she spoke, Jake's heart sank deeper. Was she about to reveal their struggles? The thought gripped him with dread. Suddenly, her eyes locked onto his, and for a fragment of a second, he saw a flash of something: fear. Hope. It sent a rush of adrenaline through him. Was this the moment where everything would be laid bare? As the crowd's interest intensified, an unexpected resolve settled within Jake. They had to find their strength together, no matter what came next, but as Sarah drew a breath to continue, the lights suddenly flickered, plunging the room into darkness. Gasps filled the air, mixing chaos with shock, leaving Jake clutching Sarah's hand tighter, worried and desperate for the light to return. What was happening? Was this a sign or just a cruel twist in their night? The darkness muffled everything, a moment cocooned in suspense. As the crowd murmured in confusion, Jake felt his pulse quicken, racing the heartbeat of uncertainty. Was this the end of their facade, or merely a chaotic beginning? The darkness enveloped the hall like a heavy blanket, muffling the stirring crowd. Jake could hear hushed whispers and a few nervous laughs, but those sounds felt distant and surreal. The grip on Sarah's hand tightened instinctively, grounding him in the moment. "Jake, what is happening?" Her voice, barely above a whisper, quivered, raw with uncertainty. Somehow, he found the strength to respond, even as his mind raced. "I don't know. Just hold on to me," he murmured, trying to inject reassurance into his tone, even if he felt it himself slipping away. He could sense her tension, the way her fingers clutched back, anchoring both of them in this strange abyss. Suddenly, a flickering of emergency lights broke through the darkness, casting eerie shadows that danced against the walls. The halting illumination revealed Sarah's face, painted in worry yet glowing in the dim light. For a moment, they could barely see the audience, but the murmurs grew louder, an ocean of anxiety swelling around them. "That was odd," Sarah said, forcing a smile, though her eyes betrayed her fear. "Just a hiccup," Jake reassured, but his heart raced with another thought. What if this was more than just a power outage? What if the darkness symbolized a deeper truth, one they both had been avoiding for too long? As the emergency lights flickered brightly for an instant, illuminating the concerned faces in the crowd, Jake noticed Mrs. Thompson leaning forward, her eyes glittering with the thrill of the unexpected turn and perhaps the knowledge that she could turn this event to her favor. "Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention," shouted the host, his voice strained and searching for stability amid the chaos. "We apologize for the inconvenience. We are experiencing a minor technical issue, but we will resume shortly. Sarah licked her lips, a gesture Jake had come to understand as her way of preparing herself for something heavy. Jake, I need to finish what I started. I need to say it, she said, the light barely catching her features but illuminating the determination in her eyes. Boom! The lights surged back to life, flooding the room with brightness. The applause was instantaneous, a wave of relief washing over the crowd, but Jake barely noticed the audience's reaction. His attention was solely on Sarah. Sarah? He called softly, trying to catch her eye as she stood there, a sliver of hope vying with the tumult of fear splintering her resolve. Do it. Tell them your truth, he urged, sensing her reluctance wavering. She took a deep breath, and that was his cue. The moment hung in the air, electric and full of possibility as if the audience held their breath too. Sometimes, she began, her voice steady, carrying strength born of vulnerability, we carry burdens that aren't ours to bear. We think we have to protect others by keeping everything inside. Jake felt the weight of her words, a truth he had never articulated but had felt deeply. In my heart, Sarah continued, I've lived under the shadow of expectations, always trying to fit into the mold others made for me. But what if we broke that mold? What if we revealed our innermost selves instead? Jake's breath hitched. The words she spoke were not just hers anymore, they belonged to them both. Today, I stand here not only as a daughter of the Thompson family but as someone who has faced trials and struggles like so many of us. I want to share not just my successes but my failures, and how they shaped my life. Her voice trembled with raw emotion, and Jake's heart leaped. This was the moment they had shied away from, yet now it felt like freedom. As she continued, he couldn't help but marvel at her strength. She was tearing down walls, not only within herself but also for everyone in that room who felt trapped by their narratives. Jake's eyes followed her movements as she talked about the pressures of marriage, the societal expectations, and the fear of disapproval. Each word pierced the atmosphere like a revelation, drawing all eyes and ears in. But then, with a heavy pulse, she took a breath that seemed to gather all her courage. I have been divorced from a version of myself that didn't truly exist, she said, her gaze finding Jake and holding it there. And now, I choose to be real. Before she could finish, a loud crash echoed from somewhere at the back of the hall. The noise cut through the sentiment thick in the air, jarring the crowd. Gasps filled the space where her words had just taken flight, and all eyes shifted toward the source of the sound, foreshadowing yet another interruption. What now? Was the story meant to continue or was it destined to unravel? Jake steeled himself, heart in throat. He had to find a way to keep Sarah steady, to ensure they wouldn't falter at this pivotal moment. And yet, uncertain dread pooled in his stomach. What if whatever was coming next was the challenge that would shatter everything they had built together? The room fell eerily silent, the applause snuffed out like a candle in the wind. Everyone turned toward the rear, where the sound had burst forth, a sound that reverberated like thunder in the sudden stillness. Jake's heart slammed in his chest, a percussion of fear and anticipation as he watched Sarah's expression shift from resolve to alarm. Stay close, he whispered, squeezing her hand tightly. It felt crucial to maintain contact, to tether them both to some semblance of safety amidst the chaos unfolding around them. A figure emerged from the shadows, moving cautiously, as though unsure of their welcome. It was one of Sarah's old friends, Kyle, a whirlwind of energy, always prone to bursting into a room full of life or, in this case, into one full of tension. Jake had always found Kyle overwhelming, but now, he felt an uneasy wave of nostalgia wash over him. What the hell is going on? Kyle said, breathless. His eyes darted between the audience and Sarah, looking for answers. I heard just a little technical hiccup, the host interrupted, attempting to regain control, but Kyle seemed oblivious to that effort, his voice rising above the crowd once more. Something's wrong. I think I saw something in the alley. He gestured wildly, bringing attention back to an unspoken thread of worry that lingered just outside the hall. Jake's mind raced. What was in the alley? Was it more than the shadowy fears lingering beneath the veneer of their lives? The collective confusion of the crowd mixed with concern, dread creeping in like the evening chill. Sarah, his voice was low, hardly escaping his lips as he turned to her. What is going on? I have no idea. She exclaimed, her eyes wide with uncertainty. But there was something in her tone, a flicker of recognition, perhaps knowledge unspoken. The crowd's anxiety swelled again, whispers tumbling forth like waves in a storm. While the underlying tension was palpable, some audience members began to wonder whether they were watching a performance or living through a crisis. Jake could see the doubt in their expressions, jagged and sharp, but Sarah's resolve seemed to flare despite the tumult. I need to finish what I started, she said, her voice carving a path through the confusion. This isn't just for me, it's for everyone who feels like they have to hide. No longer bound by fear of Kyle's intrusion, she stepped forward again, a spark reigniting in her gaze. The spotlight shifted back to her, illuminating her strength like a beacon in the darkness. Please, listen. She called out, raising her voice above the murmurs. I've felt the weight of expectations for far too long. It's time to be real, time to face our truth. Just as she steadied herself to continue, the sound returned, a sharp metallic clatter that set Jake's heart racing anew. It wasn't just a distraction anymore, it felt like an intrusion. From the rear, the door swung open wider, and a figure stumbled in. Disheveled and breathless, it was another familiar face, Sarah's estranged sister, Leah, whose arrival had been unexpected, a ghost from the past that stirred both dread and intrigue. Get away from her! Leah shouted, pointing a finger at Kyle, who recoiled as the air thickened with tension. You don't get to interrupt this. Jake's gut twisted as he felt the gathered energy shift again, unfurling like a flag in a storm. What was Leah doing here? And why now, of all moments? As she stepped toward the heart of the gathering, a tension-filled silence fell yet again, pregnant with questions. Sarah's expression shifted from determination to one of uncertainty. Leah didn't just represent family dynamics, she symbolized unresolved conflict, raw pain, and a past that refused to stay buried. It felt like a reckoning. Leah, wait! Sarah called, but her sister remained firm, eyes blazing with a purpose that matched Sarah's own. Jake exchanged glances with Sarah, their hands still entwined, a lifeline amidst a torrent of emotions. This moment held more weight than either of them had anticipated. As the air crackled with tension, something deep inside Jake knew that this confrontation would either break them apart or ultimately bind them together in a more profound way. Could Sarah face the truths Leah brought with her? And in doing so, would they emerge stronger, or fracture under the weight of unanswered questions? The moment hung there, heavy and electric, as the uncertain future loomed. Jake's heart raced, wondering if the truth would set them free or pull them deeper into chaos. Leah, please! Sarah's voice echoed again, desperate for a bridge across the chasm that had opened between them. The flickering lights danced over the crowd's worried faces, some whispering, others holding their breath, waiting for the resolution of this unexpected storm. Why are you here? Leah shot back, her tone sharp. Is this some kind of show for your friends? Because it's not a joke for me. Jake could sense the urgency in Sarah's movements, as if she was trying to summon all the years of silence, all the words left unsaid. This isn't just about me, it's about all of us. We can't pretend everything is fine. But Leah wasn't budging. You think you found your voice? She sneered, pointing a finger at Sarah. You've always been good at playing the part, but this isn't real. You don't know what real struggle looks like. Sarah's face blanched. It was like Leah had struck a nerve, or maybe several. Jake felt how each word lingered in the air, a tangible weight that pressed down on Sarah's shoulders. Stop it! Kyle interjected, casting a worried look at Sarah. This isn't the time. Leave her alone. Jake echoed, his pulse quickening. He wasn't sure if he was protecting Sarah from Leah or from Kyle's impulsiveness. The unfolding confrontation didn't just validate the tension, it amplified it as the crowd shifted nervously. A part of Jake wanted to shout back, to take a stand. But another part of him felt the tight coil of anxiety constricting around his chest. He turned to Sarah, whose determination began to flicker, battling against uncertainty. "Leah," she said softly, "let us talk. Let us really talk. Not here, not like this." Leah's expression softened a fraction. "Talk. You've avoided me for years, Sarah. This is how you want to resolve things." Despite the anger, a hint of vulnerability peeked through Leah's walls. The crowd caught their breath, sensing a shift. "You're right." Sarah hurled her words with newfound fervor. "I've been afraid of you, of what you'd think. I've kept my distance because I thought it would protect us both. But it's done more harm than good." The audience, previously lost in their own fears, began to lean in, captivated by the raw emotion blazing between the two sisters. It felt like the walls were finally shaking loose after being fortified for too long. Leah crossed her arms, eyes narrowing, still hesitant. "So, what now?" "Now," Sarah said, almost breathlessly, "we face what I've tried to avoid. Together." The echoes of shared hurt wrapped around them like a fog. Jake felt the weight of the moment magnify. Not only were they addressing the rift between sisters, but broader themes of love, loss, and hidden truths loomed if both could summon the courage to seize it. Suddenly, a subtle shift happened within the crowd. People began nodding in understanding, murmurs of empathy flowing like water over rough stones. It was as if they all recognized something in this struggle, a commonality that brought them closer to the edge of their thoughts and fears. "Everyone has their truth," Jake whispered to Sarah, gripping her hand tighter. "Now you just have to share yours." But the moment hung there, pulled taut with hesitation. What if exposing their truths only deepened the cracks? As Leah stood poised on the precipice of deciding to join, Jake sensed the power in Sarah's resolve. Will they step into the light or retreat back into shadows? Would Leah answer the call for healing, or was this just another chapter in their painful history? The air was electric, thick with unanswered questions and unresolved feelings. Jake's heart raced as he watched, uncertain of what change might emerge from this raw confrontation. The crowd seemed to hold its breath, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. In that moment, trapped between the past and a longing for connection, the fabric of their lives stretched. How far could they reach before it tore apart? What revelations would they uncover that night, and would love be enough to bind their wounds? Sarah held her breath, the air thick with anticipation. Leah's face was a mix of defiance and vulnerability, and it made Sarah's heart ache. She felt like she was standing at the edge of a cliff, ready to leap, but terrified of the fall. "Listen, Leah," Sarah said, her voice trembling with resolve. "I want to be honest. I'm tired of pretending I have it all together. I'm tired of hiding. I just want us to heal." Leah's fists tightened, her eyes narrowing again as if she were steeling herself against the pain of what was coming. "Heal? Is that what you call this? You think a heart-to-heart will fix everything after years of silence? Just like that?" "I know it won't fix everything, but it's a start," Sarah pleaded, her voice rising above the murmurs of the crowd. "We can't change the past, but we can change how it shapes our future." Jake watched the sisters, his heart aching for both of them. He squeezed Sarah's hand tighter, willing her to find the words that needed to be spoken. She took a deep breath, gathering courage. "There are things about my life that it's not what you think. I've made mistakes, and I don't want to keep hiding from them, from you. I was scared to face you, Leah. Scared of judgment, of rejection." Leah's expression shifted, her steely facade wavering just a bit. "You think I wanted to hurt you?" she said, her voice cracking. "I never wanted to push you away. But when you left, it felt like you chose something over us. I didn't know how to reach you. I know. And I didn't even realize how I was shutting you out," Sarah replied, the heat of shame rising in her cheeks. "I thought if I stayed away, it would protect you, protect us. But I see now that it only built walls. I'm sorry. A beat of silence hung between them, both sisters grappling with the burden of their shared past. The crowd, sensing the shift, leaned closer, exchanging glances filled with a mix of hope and curiosity. I just wanted you to see me, Leah finally said, her voice barely a whisper. Not just as the strong sister but as someone who is scared and lost too. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes. I see you, Leah. I always have. But I was too busy drowning in my own fears to admit it. In that flickering moment of vulnerability, they reached a silent understanding, a fragile bridge that could lead to something more. Leah uncrossed her arms, the tension seeming to seep out of her posture. As if the crowd was holding its collective breath, Kyle stepped in again, his voice steady yet warm. We're all here for each other. Not just you two. Everyone's got something to share. Let us make this our moment. A ripple of agreement passed through the audience. People murmured their own stories, their own fears, intertwining like a tapestry of shared human experience. Jake felt the atmosphere lift slightly, a touch of camaraderie blossoming in the space between. Leah looked at Sarah, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. What if we start with just one thing? One truth we've kept hidden. Okay, Sarah nodded, her heart racing as she thought about all the walls she'd built. Let us do it. Jake couldn't help but feel a thrill of hope surge within him. They were on the brink of transformation, the urge to free themselves from their pasts blending into a shared moment of bravery. Would they dare to take that leap together? As they stood poised on the edge of revelation, a heavy silence enveloped the crowd, amplifying every heartbeat. Would Sarah and Leah find their way through the labyrinth of their shared pain? Or would the fear of the unknown pull them back into silence once more? Sarah felt her heart pounding in her chest as she stood there, the weight of Leah's gaze intensified by the shared vulnerability. It was as if time had slowed, the world around them fading into a distant hum. She recalled the years of silence, the moments lost to misunderstandings. Now, standing on the precipice, she could feel the leap they were about to take echoing in the air. I'll go first, Sarah finally said, breaking the silence, her voice steadier now. Years ago, I made a decision, a choice that I thought was right at the time, but it pushed you away. Leah's brows furrowed, anticipation written on her face. I didn't just leave because I needed space. It was deeper than that. I was drowning in my insecurities, convinced that I wasn't enough for you, for anyone. I thought leaving would be easier, for both of us. There was a pause. A surrounding hush consumed the space, laden with unspoken words. The crowd shifted as they leaned in, each intimate gaze rooting for connection, for honesty, and healing. I thought being distant would keep you safe. That letting go would shield you from my failings, Sarah confessed, her voice thickening with emotion. But instead, it just isolated us. As the words fell from her lips, she felt a pang of regret, sharp and true. Her eyes filled with unshed tears, glinting like sunlight on water. Leah took a deep breath. I thought you didn't care. I thought you would be happier without me, she said, her vulnerability breaking through. Her bravado crumbled, leaving raw honesty in its wake. But now I see that both of us were lost in our own versions of what we thought was right. Tears streamed down Leah's cheeks as her defenses faded. The crowd stood in enraptured silence, feeling the weight of revelation. Every day without you was a battle, Leah continued, her voice trembling. I tried to fill the void, but I only ended up more lost. It scared me to think that maybe you didn't want me in your life anymore. No, Leah, Sarah cried softly. You've always been my anchor. I was so afraid of my own turmoil that I let it drown us both. I just wanted to protect you by hiding. Then, just as they felt that fragile thread strengthening between them, a voice broke the moment. But how do we move on? It was Jake, his brow furrowing with the weight of hope and concern. How do you both piece this back together? Sarah and Leah exchanged glances, realizing this was not just about words spoken in the moment. This would take more than acknowledgement of their past, it required action and openness, the willingness to risk, to trust again. "We start by being honest," Leah said, wiping her tears, her voice steadier now, pulling in deep breaths. "We confront the mess we've made and decide what we want moving forward." The crowd murmured, and a mix of emotions flowed through the air: hope, trepidation, solidarity. "I'm scared," Sarah admitted, her voice a fragile whisper yet echoing through steadfast hearts. "Me too," Leah replied, now more resolute. "But we owe it to ourselves to try, to rebuild. What do we lose by choosing connection?" In that moment, their fears danced with the thrill of a new beginning, an uncharted territory. As they reached for each other, the atmosphere shifted. The crowd leaned in closer, drawn by a magnetic energy that had transformed pain into possibility. Standing at the edge of their revelations, Sarah felt the thrill of potential flutter inside. They were stepping boldly into the unknown, ready to illuminate the dark corners of their hearts. But even as they stood hand in hand, an unspoken question lingered in the air: how far were they willing to go to reclaim their sisterhood, knowing it would require exposing every sacred wound? Are we truly ready for what comes next? Sarah thought, fear and hope swirling as they took a step into the new chapter of their lives. As Sarah held Leah's hand, a sense of calm washed over her. "We're not just sisters by blood, but by choice. Let us choose to work together," she declared, her voice steadying with each syllable. The weight of their past loomed heavy, yet the space around them thrummed with newfound understanding. Leah nodded slowly. "For so long, we've been battling each other instead of facing our truths together. I'm ready to try truly." The crowd, initially filled with skepticism, began to murmur encouragement. Something had shifted, walls were crumbling, and the air felt lighter. Jake felt a swell of pride for both women, realizing this was not just about them, but their shared family, their community. "Together, we can redefine our journey," Sarah continued, their hands still clasped tightly. "This foundation isn't just about money, it's about what we choose to share of ourselves. Our fears, our hopes, everything." Jake stepped forward, emboldened by their unfolding connection. "That's right. No one can thrive alone, we're all in this together. This foundation can inspire real change." He turned towards the audience, a passionate fire igniting in his heart. "Let us embrace our vulnerabilities. Our stories can illuminate the path for one another." With every word spoken, the energy shifted again. People began sharing snippets of their own struggles, chiming in, "I felt alone too." Or "I thought I had to carry it all." These revelations of shared pain started electric conversations, weaving through the crowd in cascading waves of support. In that pivotal moment, laughter and tears mingled freely, a testament to love's profound power. Sarah could see it, the smiles blooming around them, the shared glances of hope. Each soul in that room was taking a step towards connection, and it felt as if chains that had bound them for years were finally breaking apart. As the emotional tide receded, Leah took a deep breath, a smile breaking through the remnants of their shared sorrow. "So, how do we forge ahead?" she asked Sarah, their past still hanging like a fog, yet promising clarity ahead. "By being present, not just today, but every day going forward," Sarah replied. "We create space for honesty and growth." The applause began as people recognized the significance of the moment. Each clap felt like a promise of understanding, of change, and of love breaking through barriers. A familiar voice rang from the edge of the crowd. "Let us build this community together. We can help each other rise." It was Lisa, one of Sarah's co-workers. Her enthusiasm ignited a ripple of excitement, and the crowd roared in agreement. Jake felt pride swell within him, a warmth as he saw his wife shining. This wasn't just about them anymore, it was a call to unite, a rallying cry that reached the hearts of everyone present. It transformed not just personal relationships but a larger narrative in their community. As Leah and Sarah stepped off the stage together, their hands still intertwined, they turned to Jake, brimming with hope and determination. "Together?" Leah asked with a cautious smile. "Together," Jake confirmed, pulling them both into a warm embrace. They reveled in the bond that unfolded anew, realizing that love was the glue that would hold their family together, through all the imperfections, the good, and the bad. The weight of anxiety slipped away, replaced by a shared promise, a commitment to embrace authenticity amid the messy realities of life. They knew challenges would come, but as long as they faced them hand in hand, they would emerge stronger. As the gala continued, a radiant light filled the room, igniting conversations of unity, love, and renewal. Laughter rang through the air, and the sense of hope became tangible, permeating every heart that beat in that space. "Let us keep this momentum going," Jake declared, beckoning the crowd to share ideas for the foundation. The energy overflowed, not merely a celebration but a movement escalating toward profound change. In that moment, they leaned towards a beautiful truth, a collective realization: they were never alone. With their hearts open wide, they stepped into the future. Now, it's your turn. Don't just stand by, subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread this message far and wide. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending. Your voice matters, and please, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to share, don't wait not even one more second. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting this channel through these actions.